Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, Homath, who used to have a lot of interesting takes about female psychology and whatnot, he's gone off the deep end and just really let the anti-Muslim rhetoric spew out. So now I don't like anything that he posts, and I try not to give him any type of boost. I know it's ironic that I'm covering his post here, and that might inadvertently help him, but I'm only covering the things where he slanders Islam to defend the Ummah. He says here, immigrants need time to integrate into America. Oh, well, Americans don't. Let's just make more of them instead of importing people who ruin the place. Also, almost no immigrants ever integrate. Check out Dearborn, Michigan. When do you think they'll start celebrating Christmas? Okay, he's not a Christian from my understanding. He kind of dibble-dabbles in what he wants to be. And Christmas today isn't like what I had. I'm a winter kid. I love December. And growing up, my grandma had a beautiful tree. My grandpa used to play Santa Claus, and I would do his makeup, and his beard was so long that he would, just use his natural beard. He would go to the church and be Santa there as well, and also had private jobs. He was someone who really enjoyed Christmas, and it was a big thing for our family. I think today, Christmas is more about buy your kid electronics, go into massive debt. It's no longer that vintage feeling of, hey, this is all I could afford, here's a gift, and I hope you love it, and it's special. It's quite materialistic and consumer based now. And if you notice, people include receipts now in the gifts they give. Oh, if you don't like it, just go exchange it. It's so vapid and dead. It doesn't have that special feeling of, this was given to me and it's personal. I remember so many vintage cartoons. I wish I could remember all their names, but stockings from a sock, and there was like these little kids in an orphanage, and they get some wooden toys. Like, it was more meaningful then, right? Today, it's just not that way. All right. So Christmas is a Christian holiday, and it's become secularized by consumerism. Christmas without Christ doesn't mean anything. If you're an atheist and you're celebrating Christmas, you're kind of let's be nice here, but you're not a very intelligent person, because you're just spending money for the sake of it. And there's a whole conversation around Krampus with the German culture and what St. Nicholas represents and all that. But if you're not a Christian, you don't need to celebrate Christmas. The whole tradition would be foreign to you. And I'll go even further. Winter climates have a more jolly Christmas than places that don't snow. Because the pine tree in the snow, and going out and chopping it down and putting a fresh blue spruce in your living room, the smell of blue spruce, that tree, or a Douglas fir, is just so, oh my goodness, it's better than fresh rosemary, mint, or basil. I mean, it's an aromatic, it's fantastic. And wreath making, all this stuff, the decorations, in a winter climate, it's more cozy, your hot chocolate. It just doesn't hit the same in places like California or places that have a desert climate, And where I grew up in Utah, it was more special. Snow outside your window, you got your tree lights on, your lights on your house, everyone has a snow village. It's just different. Going snowboarding, going skiing, it's just different. So again, you can integrate into the American economy without celebrating Christmas. And notice how he said Dearborn, Michigan. That is a place where Muslims are gaining a nice foothold and creating a healthy, vibrant community. Homath didn't mention, oh, well, why don't we force people to celebrate Hanukkah or a Hindu holiday, or I don't know, some occultist holiday. It never ends, right? We can't celebrate everyone's holidays, and there's nothing really wrong with letting people have their tradition. America really is mixed, and it's going to keep getting that way in the age of global travel. But I just found it deeply ironic that a guy who calls himself Ho Math and spends a lot of time trashing women and boosting his own ego like he's a special prize is expecting Muslims to celebrate Christmas. That would not even make any sense in our religion. That doesn't make sense at all. We would be confused human beings if we started to incorporate Christian festivals into our ideology. And in fact, when you look at the people who study Christianity, they often love to pick on the Christians, especially the Catholics, for incorporating pagan beliefs into their celebrations. Halloween, Easter, the bunny and the egg. You know, there's a whole genre, especially in the early 2000s, that I would read up on, where people would discuss how absurd it is that things that aren't found in the Bible as celebrations are celebrated. And Jehovah's Witnesses actually will say, don't celebrate Valentine's Day. Don't celebrate this and that. And you're like, huh. And then you see different Christians arguing about the validity of Christmas and should Christians use Santa Claus, because they realize they're innovators. They've innovated a lot into their religion. And in Islam, every innovation is misguidance. See, Ho Math acts like he's an expert on Islam, and yet he doesn't realize we don't innovate, we don't add. Okay, if the Prophet, peace be upon him, didn't do it, and the righteous companions didn't do it, it's not found in the Quran or the Sirah, alright, or in the Noble Hadith, then guess what? We're going to try to avoid it, and we're working on that with other sects. So, guess what? Leave us be, and we're not going to... Like, why would a desert people... I just don't... Why would they want to have a sort of winter festival in an area where they don't even have that tree? And it's ridiculous. Those pine trees don't even grow in their climates. It just doesn't make sense in certain regards. When you look at Scandinavian immigrants and what they brought, how they used to decorate their trees with the Amanita muscaria mushroom. They used to give it during those winter holidays, and that mushroom will get you all loopy. You look at their relation to the reindeer, the caribou, right? If you live in a place without caribou, it's just not the same. Alright? I remember in Brigham City, Utah, there was a festival, and they brought a deer it was a deer, it wasn't a reindeer, but it was a deer, and then they were like, oh, it's Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, and they had him in the little pen. If you live in a place that doesn't have deer, it just doesn't make sense. So much of the tradition doesn't transfer over, right? And so people don't need to integrate into the winter festival aspects that are secular parts of Christmas. It just doesn't make sense, okay? And so he says immigrants need time to integrate into America, and he says almost no immigrants integrate. Okay, Italians and Irish brought their cuisine here. The Irish brought their drinking culture and their beer brewing stuff and their tailoring, okay? Then you had the Italians in Italiantown in San Francisco, in North San Francisco. I forget where it is. I've been there, but I haven't been back there in a long time, so I don't know how up to date it is. But Italians, they loved their Little Italy. Okay, we're bringing our cuisine. We're not putting ketchup on spaghetti. We're making a marinara and making fresh fettuccine. You see what I'm saying? American Italians try to be as authentic, that care, with their recipes back to the homeland, they'd say. They don't have Golden Corral pasta and Kraft, cheese on their pasta shells. No, they're going to make their own fresh Alfredo. Okay, when you look at cuisine, there's fusion cuisines where you mix and blend and innovate. But at the same time, authentic recipes have to stay authentic to the homeland. They don't integrate into the culture, Cuisine is something that immigrants bring. And quite frankly, I am someone who has studied cuisine a lot. And with the Amish community, the Mennonite community, I really do love their recipes. It's a vintage past of America, but it is nice when I get to have some Mexican tamales that are from the Yucatan style, from the Sonora style, from Jalisco. When I go for the Chinese food, okay, there's different styles, alright? When it comes to Middle Eastern food, I've got a lot of cookbooks now from the library. Got one from Persia, Algeria, Egypt. It's just fascinating. All the different styles of cooking. Even in Mexico, there's different moles. When they come to America, they make mad money by not integrating into the Burger King, McDonald's culture. America is a lot of soda, fast food, chips, and the cuisine culture is propped up by immigrants. Food trucks, if you go around to the food truck festivals like farmers markets, you see Korean, Indian, Japanese, Vietnamese. That's all immigrant food. If it was American-born food, excuse me, it would have a little too much barbecue. I made my own barbecue sauces. I love it. But if every stall is just barbecue or stuff smothered in gravy and biscuits, where it's more country fried, people are gonna get, alright, we get it, Just to look at how different fruits got to America. The horse was brought to America, so immigrants brought horses here, and then the Native Americans adopted them. But just examine how animals got to where they were across the world. Immigrants and tradesmen and spices. Because of immigrants as well, we get to have access to so many culinary spices. It is amazing. I was watching a blog today of a vlog, and they were in Turkey. And I was like, man, look at that spice market. They got sweet paprika, smoked paprika, classic paprika. I'm stuttering. And they got coriander, cumin, Ceylon cinnamon, regular cinnamon. You're like, this is crazy. This is awesome. White pepper, black pepper, green pepper. You're like, things you didn't even know existed. I know it existed, but when the first time you see it, you're like, how do you use this? Okay, boom, let's check it out. Immigrants bring that. They don't let go of their cuisine and then decide, okay, every day we're going to have chicken nuggets and hamburger helper and frozen banquet TV dinners. And I know how to cook the traditional Thanksgiving meal in the most rustic pilgrim fashion. And I will meet people who are new here and they don't know how to cook that meal, and they're like, oh, the turkey's like this, and people have given up on the art of cooking and they don't know how to make the Thanksgiving meal good. Or they make, like, they serve fish or ham, and you're like, yeah, it's really about turkey and who can make the best flavorful, juicy turkey and the best sides that are classic to the heritage. And not a lot of people can do it because it takes time and it's an all-day activity. And it's sort of like how, during the Soviet era, somebody's babushka would pass down a recipe, and then in China, someone's pass down their certain tea recipes or Chinese medicine trinkle type of recipe, tinctures, you know what I mean? There's cultures, or in India, they're passing down their curry recipes, sourdough starters. Each way I'm trying to explain is that people are going to hold on to part of their heritage, and then when you bring it to the next place you travel, you're sharing such an awesome part of your culture. And integration also, let's explain this. I've really thought about so much, why do so many immigrants see American women as whores, and what is this big problem we have with men approaching so many American women, especially white women, as prostitutes? And then you look at the American media. How do they market American women? Even in PG movies, there's something sexual. I was watching Ernest slams dunks with my children last night, And there was a woman who was like strangely moaning, talking about money, and the kids aren't picking up on it, but I can see it's clearly sexual. So if you were watching with your husband, it would be this awkward scene. Even though she's showing she's a gold digger, it's very the sexual tension in the kids movie is super strong. And I'm thinking to myself, you can't escape Americans putting something sexual in even kids movies. People have talked about this with Disney, okay? It's just been everywhere. So, to the rest of the world, if you come from a culture where women have honor, dignity, and they're not encouraged to be skanks like Paris Hilton or Lindsay Lohan, Kim Kardashian, you know, you're going to assume, oh, all these women, there's a price, you just have to nag them a little bit, and they're going to open up. Open sesame, as they say. And people shouldn't encourage their daughters to behave in the American fashion. To encourage your daughter to integrate into American society is to integrate into making your child dress very lewd, losing her virginity very soon, having intimacy outside of marriage, her polluting her body by putting it on massive amounts of birth control so that she can get passed around the football team. You know, if you look at the history of cinema in America, you begin to see a lot of how the society went down. You look at Saturday Night Fever with John Travolta, you see how each movie makes itself more and more hedonistic. To the point now where you're at House of the Dragon, where you can't go 5 minutes without something pornographic being shown. American men and women are extremely porn-brained. And this has led to lots of STDs being spread. 1 in 5 Americans has an STD. Look it up. 2023, there were so many abortions, over 1 million. Divorce rates are very common. It's very difficult for people to stay together for all different kinds of reasons. And there's a lot of single mothers and a lot of single mothers living in poverty. Integrating into American culture means you denigrate your daughters to a slut status. America even had that Rose lady with the shaved head. She said she did a slut walk. She's like a degenerate rapper. And she spoke for Trump at the RNC, and the conservative Christians put up a woman known for rapping and conducting a slut walk. And they're supposed to be Christians, but they'll do anything to get Trump elected. Do you see what I'm trying to tell you? I mean, Biden's no different. He also had in conversations with Cardi B. Cardi B admitted to drugging and robbing men when she was a stripper. And just the other day, against my will, as I'm scrolling X, there was a video of her twerking while pregnant. And it's like, okay, that's very disgusting. But again, American culture equals, okay, now your daughter gotta be a skank. And for most sane people, they don't want, especially first generation immigrants, they want their daughters to be better than that. Okay? And that's not misogynistic. Okay? That's, hey honey, maybe you should have class like women did in the 18th century. Okay? 17th century. 16th century. Basically before the 19th and 20th century. Alright? And America has changed its culture from its founding till today. So what time period are people supposed to integrate into? Should they come here and wear powdered wigs and be like, I'm integrating into classic 17th century America? Or you even look at the 80s, to the 90s, to the 2000s, to right now in the 2020s. The fashion has changed immensely, and what has been normalized. So which era are they supposed to integrate into? Which one is the real American? And it's going to change again in 10 years. It changes every decade. So these assertions by Ho Math that immigrants ruin a place, that they can't integrate, and that you should just make more Americans is absurd. Okay? Because they're going to bring cuisine. They're going to bring a new, fresh perspective, new clothing styles, and also different types of businesses. And you also get to see a different perspective on the world. Someone coming from the outside to the inside sees the problems that you may have overlooked because you're so used to it. So, may Allah bless the Muslims in Dearborn, Michigan. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide Homath to Islam because he's quite deluded. Let me know what you think. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, join the blog.